Hey, Futurist Jim Carroll from the virtual broadcast studio. I've been running this irregular series called Ask a Futurist, where people send me questions about what's on their mind when it comes to trends and the future. And I take these issues on and talk about them. Now, a lot of talk recently, a lot of questions about energy. And I actually had two energy keynotes last week, one live in Orlando, one virtual. Where I'm talking about the fact that, guess what, oil is over. We had, the big global conference on the climate last week and a lot of issues that the world needs to address, and it's a very complex issue, but I study the trends, and here's the reality of what is occurring. Oil is over, renewables is everything, microgrid, intelligent technology is accelerating the pace of change in the world of energy, and I want to spend a few minutes to put in perspective the trends that I covered last week in both this in-person keynote in Orlando, as well as the virtual keynote that I did. Now, just to put things in perspective, I have been out here for 28 years talking about trends, talking about the future. I used to walk on two great, big, glorious stages in Las Vegas a year ago, 2 years ago right now. I was in Morocco at a talk for the World Bank. And then, of course, COVID hit. So what I did was I built this massive virtual broadcast studio in my basement because clients are still seeking to understand what are the trends that are going to define our future. And that's where I'm coming to you from right now, because look, we still don't know how COVID is going to unfold in the next year. Here's the thing. So last week I was in Orlando for Siemens Energy. This is the new spinoff of the massive Siemens firm, and this is probably the fourth time they've had me in for a talk about the future of energy. Now, this was a leadership meeting. This was the first get-together that they had of their team to talk about the future, talk about trends, talk about their opportunity. And they invited me in again to get their leadership team excited about the potential for the future. So I put in perspective a broad range of energy trends just to get them thinking again about where they're going in this fast-paced future. I also did a talk for a rural energy cooperative, which was done virtually, about the same type of issues. And so I'm going to cover some of those trends, and I want to put in perspective first for you the reality of what is occurring in this complicated world. I think part of the challenge is we've been so focused on the pandemic, so focused on what we need to do to get through these challenging times, that in a lot of industries we've lost sight of the opportunities which are in front of us. We've been focused on triage. We've been focused on trying to survive and not really thinking about where might we be in the year 2025, 2030, 2040, 2050. And that's my job. That's what I do. I've got a really unique job as a futurist. I can get here in my spaceship and talk about the future. But really what I do is I challenge people to think about where we are going to be in the future. What trends exist today, and how might those challenge us tomorrow? But more important, how might those provide opportunities? And that's what we need to think about. One thing I always like to do with my audience is take them on a tour of, let's say it's the year 2030, and we're looking back at the world today and just thinking about how different our world is. Look, in the year 2030, we're going to be in a world in probably which there will be a lot of autonomous vehicles around. To a degree, cars will be driving themselves. How sophisticated will they be? That's very much up for debate. I have a Tesla, and it's very much an evolutionary process in terms of how much autonomy it has. But clearly, when we look back at today, we'll remember the cars were something that we drove, but by the year 2030, they took over a lot of that responsibility. If we look back at the world of 2019, pre-pandemic, we'll remember it as a world in which we went out to get most of the products that we need at places called stores. And then with the pandemic and post-pandemic, a lot of those products came to us. By the year 2030, a vast majority of our purchases were delivered to a driveway drone pad for product delivery. The world of retail is undergoing a tremendous change. We'll look at the world of farming, and we'll remember a world in which we used to only farm when the sun was up in the year 2020, but now we are doing 24-hour farming. We're farming throughout the day because a lot of autonomous technology has allowed us to maximize our capacity for farming even when it's dark. We will look at the world of healthcare, and we will remember in the year 2020, we fixed you after you were sick. But by the year 2030, the prevalence of DNA genomic medicine was such that we had a high degree of insight into what you were likely to become sick with, and we re-architected the delivery of healthcare resources based upon that knowledge. The entire world of healthcare had gone upside down by the year 2030. Well, we'll remember the world of manufacturing. It used to be a world of mass production, where a company would produce millions of products that were all the same and sell them to consumers. But the impact of 3D printing, end of runway manufacturing, disruptive business models led us to a world of mass customization where we could increasingly prepare a product for a market of one. We'll remember we used to drive vehicles that were using gasoline and diesel, but then everything went electric and batteries became the heart of our future. And in the world of energy, we'll remember we once were reliant on coal and natural gas and oil, but then everything shifted to renewables, to microgrid, to battery storage technology, and massively intelligent connected grid technology. I think one of the most exciting industries out there today is the world of energy, because there are so many trends coming together all at once. And before we really take ourselves on a voyage into the future and some of the trends which are redefining our world in absolutely dramatic ways, think about the reality of what you are living through right now. I often get on stage, and I did this in Orlando last week, with the observation that we've got so much unfolding right now that we are in a situation in which companies that do not yet exist will build products not yet conceived, using materials not yet invented, with methodologies not yet in existence. That is happening right now. What are you going to do to turn that reality into opportunity? To think about that, you really need to think about the fact that the future is faster post-pandemic than it was before the pandemic. Look, one of my taglines for years has been that the future belongs to those who are fast, that we are seeing such an accelerating rate of change that increasingly it's our ability to align to the faster future that will define our success. Well, the pandemic actually sped everything up. The future is faster than it was before. And I witnessed this, and you witnessed this. We all witnessed this in the early days of the pandemic. I ended up in a national TV show in my home country of Canada, where I was talking about how quickly we saw change occurring all around us just 1 month into the pandemic. And I remember vividly a video I came across of a farmer who is located east of Toronto. He sold a lot of product to farmers markets. That was a key component of his business model. And obviously with the pandemic and the shutdown, he no longer had this opportunity. Do you know what this fellow did? Was he lined up the ability to sell these products online using e-commerce technologies. He hired a bunch of university students and locals to deliver the product, and he quickly shifted to an online business model in a matter of 10 days. I looked at that and I said, that's it. That's what's happening here. What has occurred here is we've all of a sudden had individuals who have realized that speed is everything when it comes to the future. The real impact of the pandemic is that if the world was fast before, it's even faster now. That's the reality of what we need to align ourselves to. Look, what has occurred here is that we have witnessed 10 years of change in but 6 months. E-commerce, we talked about that in the world of retail forever. All of a sudden we had to do it. In the world of healthcare, we've talked about telehealth forever, but all of a sudden we had to do it. We saw entire industries compress 10 years of change into about 6 months. And what this did was it actually accelerated all the trends which surround us today. The future became faster as a result of this massive set of circumstances. And I think with that, organizations actually learned something new about speed. They learned how to innovate faster. They learned how to work faster. They learned how to align themselves to the future faster. And the reality of where that led us to is that agility and flexibility became absolutely critical. A lot of organizations pre-pandemic were talking about how can we shake up our corporate culture to align to a faster future. Well, they just had to do it. They didn't have a choice. And the result of all of this is that business models shifted faster than ever before. The impact of this is that the attitude that, it can't be done disappeared. Organizations make a lot of excuses. We come up with a lot of reasons why we can't try new ideas or pursue new business models. And a lot of that thinking just absolutely disappeared, because what really occurred here is decision-making paralysis went out the window. Organizations didn't have the opportunity to make excuses anymore. And what that did was it put a slow structure under a microscope. Organizations cut through the hierarchy. They discovered how to form teams faster. They discovered how to attack issues faster than ever before. And with all that came a fundamental change in the world of business, which We'll never go back to the old ways. The old barriers to new ideas simply disappeared because get it done became the rallying cry. I mean, it was triage, it was survival, it was doing what we needed to do to simply get through this very complicated period of time. And now what organizations are focused on, and this has a real impact with energy, is how do we keep that momentum? We learned a lot about the future. We learned a lot about speed. We learned a lot about accelerating trends. How do we keep that momentum as we go forward into the future? The bottom line in the world of energy is, like every single industry, it's even faster than it was pre-pandemic. And what I want to do is I want to put in perspective the reality of those trends. Here's what's happening. Number one, grid parity is happening faster than you think. Well, what is grid parity? Grid parity is the reality that the cost to generate a unit of energy via renewables, wind or solar or other forms with battery storage technology, becomes less expensive than traditional carbon, traditional natural gas, traditional coal. We're hitting grid parity faster than ever before, and this is a pretty profound development because this impacts everything. Over in Perth, Australia, we can actually construct a neighborhood in which it is less expensive to architect the entire neighborhood and homes utilizing renewables and grid and battery at a lesser cost than traditional carbon energy or cooling technologies. And look, this trend is coming into every single aspect of the world. When we hit grid parity faster, what this does is it draws in a lot of the investment dollars which accelerate the industry. So you can see a lot of the signs of this occurring everywhere around the world, the impact of grid parity. What this means is that there is an inevitable shift that is underway. Look, solar has pushed aside coal as the cheapest source of power. Every single aspect of renewables is becoming less expensive than traditional carbon. And really at the heart of a lot of this, the price of solar is collapsing at an absolutely furious rate. I mean, you can discover any number of graphs which put in perspective the reality of what is occurring. You can see the numbers in stark terms. I mean, over in Dubai, it cost 5.85 cents per kilowatt hour for solar in 2015. That was down to 1.69 cents. By 2019, it's even less now. That's down 71% in 5 years. On my roof, 2 levels up, I've got solar on my roof and I've got a Tesla in the driveway. And in essence, I'm going quickly to a world in which I will be able to fuel all of my activities through the solar on my roof by going into the battery of my Tesla, vehicle to grid connectivity. I mean, these trends are absolutely staggering, and that's a key part of what is occurring here. We've got a lot of momentum going on with solar, with wind, with renewables, all these things, and with microgrid technology. But if we can't store that energy, it really doesn't work quite well. Well, here's the thing. The price of energy storage is absolutely collapsing. The price of batteries has declined by 97% in the last 3 decades. Look, years ago, I wrote this post, and it's still on my website, in which I said, the future of just about everything is all about batteries. That's really what is occurring here. And I took that photo from the movie The Graduate. Remember in The Graduate, the older fellow's talking to the young Dustin Hoffman. He says, I've got one word for you about the future: plastics. Well, I've got one word for you about the future. It's batteries, because battery storage technology is at the heart of so many trends. It's at the heart of the future of automotive. It's at the heart of the future of what is occurring with the energy industry. It's at the heart of agriculture. I've got a blog post on my site called We've Got Fitbits for Cows, and believe it or not, that actually has a battery storage component to it. It's not just batteries, though. The cost of all renewables is collapsing as well. You can look at solar, you can look at wind, you can look at tidal, you can look at offshore wind, you can look at concentrated solar. Everywhere you look, the cost is just continuing to go down as we get more investment dollars drawn into the industry, as we get more companies involved, we get greater demand. The numbers are simply staggering, and this is all over the internet. These are real trends which are unfolding right now. The price of electricity from new power plants based on renewables. Look at that red line. That's solar. It declined by 80% in the last 10 years. The result of this is that the share of renewable energy in the overall energy mix is accelerating. The percentage that comes from renewables keeps on going up. Oil keeps declining. Carbon keeps on going down. This is an irreversible trend. The fact of the matter is that renewables account for most new energy generation. And again, you can discover all the numbers, all the insight, which put in perspective just how significant the renewables energy mix is becoming of our overall energy production. All this is happening in the context in which a lot of innovative new technologies are now coming at us at a furious pace. I've spoken at a lot of construction conferences, and one of the things I was talking about on stage in Orlando last week was that we're starting to see the arrival of solar energy window glass. Imagine that we put up a skyscraper, imagine we put up a building, and the windows which we have in place aren't just something that we can see through, but they're actually generating energy because they're solar cells. I mean, this changes absolutely everything. And we're seeing a lot of staggering new disruptive opportunities like this unfold. And with that comes a lot of innovative new ways of thinking. Look, over in India, they're constructing a water aqueduct to solve some irrigation issues. And they decided on top of that, let's layer some solar technology so we can do something innovative at the same time. I mean, I go around the world of energy and I look at the number of innovative ideas, and it is simply staggering to see. It's not just that. I think the next billion-dollar industry which is emerging here is smart energy home technology. Now, Tesla's trying to do this with battery, with storage, with vehicles in the driveway, bringing it all together. This is going to be a massive opportunity, and I've spoken about this at conferences 3 years, where we're going to see a lot of integrated technologies where somebody puts together all of those pieces and works with a local utility company. And you've got a one simple solution which brings together battery, brings together renewables, brings together technology, brings together your mobile device, brings together your car, brings together the local utility. There's a little company called Ecobee out of Toronto. And they recently sold for $700 million. And if you look behind the press release for the company that bought it, they're talking about doing exactly this. If you want to watch an industry unfold in the next 10 years, integrated home energy technology, I mean, this is going to be absolutely massive. The opportunity that is unfolding here is staggering. I could go on. The innovation opportunity energy isn't just occurring with energy itself. Obviously, electric vehicles are a huge component of this. And if you look at what is happening with Tesla vehicles and the ramp up of the Ford Model T in the 1900s, they're following the same path. You can barely even buy a Tesla at this point because the demand has ramped up so quickly. And what this is leading to is reality that electric vehicles are going to happen faster than you think. Over in Finland, I think we're almost at 90% electric vehicles dominating all driving by the year 2025. Most of the automotive retailers, developers, manufacturers now know that the internal combustion engine is dead. It's from the olden days. It's out of date. It's on the way out. Most cars by the year 2030 will have some sort of electronic component. And with this is coming a great disruptive shakeout. A lot of them don't know what to do. They don't know how to get there. They don't have the skills. They don't have the capabilities. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch it unfold. But you can look at what is occurring in various countries. What is also coming here is that the next generation is totally into this world of what we might call hyper-connected energy, where we can interact with our energy footprint in the same way we interact with Facebook or Instagram. My two little guys, who are now 26, 28, we've got a ski chalet north of Toronto, and I had one of the first internet-enabled thermostats, like 2005. We used to be driving up to the chalet, and a little voice would come out of the back seat, "Daddy, should I turn up the heat?" We're 100 kilometers out. We're 70 miles out. They don't think there's anything weird about that question because they know that Daddy's got a mobile device, and on that device is a little program by which you can control the heat in the chalet 70 miles away. They don't think there's anything weird about that. We are seeing the emergence of a generation for whom their entire management of their energy footprint from so many different perspectives is going to occur via mobile. At the same time, a lot of crazy fringe ideas are going mainstream. I've talked for years about the fact that I found the future of manure. And manure, actually a massive problem on farms, but we've discovered how to turn this into an energy opportunity. And I've been speaking about this at agricultural conferences for close to 20 years. Well, we're now seeing large-scale organizations recognize the same thing, that there are opportunities to take what is a problem and turn it into a real opportunity. At the same time that we're exploring old crazy ideas, new crazy ideas are emerging. I mean, it's not crazy to think that one day the cars we drive will have solar generating cells on top of the roof. And as they drive down the road, they're simply generating the energy that they will use to fuel themselves. I mean, to me, this is a natural slam dunk of where we are heading. All of this is leading to a world that is seeing the rapid birth of billion-dollar industries literally overnight. You can look at what is going on. You can look at the companies coming into this. You can look at the venture capital. You can look at the equity investments. You can look at the entrepreneurs. You can look at what's going on in Silicon Valley, and there's a heck of a lot that is underway. Here's the thing. The group I spoke to last week was a lot of rural energy cooperatives throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And for folks like that, they can often think that, well, this isn't part of my world. This is all big city stuff, but the rural opportunity is massive here. With just 1% of U.S. farmland, we could produce 20% of U.S. electricity. It's not just big city stuff. One of the most fascinating stories out there in the energy world is Bargersville, California, who have invested in Tesla Model 3s for their police vehicle fleet, and the cost savings they are encountering are simply absolutely massive. Bottom line of all of this is a whole bunch of the stuff that is around you today, a whole bunch of the energy infrastructure that is around you today is becoming stuff from the olden days. I mean, I take delight in driving down the road and looking at things and discovering things which are going to become something from the olden days just like that. And oil, gas stations from the olden days, it's all going to be renewables, it's all going to be electric chargers, it's all going to be things like that. Well, a lot of people say to me, that's all fine and good. That sounds like crazy stuff, but that's just some weird futurist. No, it's not me. The International Energy Agency has said that in a future energy system, the existing electrical utility, it's essentially going to be like an insurance policy. It's going to be an insurance company. It's going to provide energy against those periods of times when the renewables, batteries, grid are not providing that energy. The local utility, we're still going to be using natural gas. To a degree, we'll still be using coal. It's going to take a long time to phase this out. But those are increasingly going to become a backstop to generating energy. That's the insurance when the renewables and the grid and the battery are not providing that energy. And this is being witnessed in terms of the investments going into the industry. Bloomberg suggests that there's going to be $11.5 trillion going into energy by the year 2050. 85% of that is going to go into renewables. It's going to go into wind. It's going to go into solar. It's going to go into grid. It's going to go into batteries. Oil is over. So what does this mean for you? Well, opportunity. Here's what's really occurring here. Tech and energy are combining. The energy industry is becoming an industry that is being driven by Silicon Valley in the same way that automotive is being driven by the speed of change of Silicon Valley. And what that does is it means that Moore's Law now defines the speed of energy. What it means is if we thought the world of energy was fast before, it's overwhelmingly fast at this point in time. And to a degree, batteries are at the heart of a lot of this. I think one of the most exciting things happening in the world of energy today has to do with what is occurring with batteries. But it's not just batteries, it's the momentum of solar, which is simply staggering. I look at the trends which are underway, I look at the cost collapse which is underway, and it's absolutely overwhelming. And the challenge is this: legacy companies aren't used to this speed. Utility companies certainly are not. Your local hydro company has no idea how to deal with the speed of change. Automotive companies don't know how to deal with the speed of change. Traditional oil and gas companies don't know how to deal with the speed of change. Technology companies do. Startups do. Entrepreneurs do. New organizations do. And that's why we're getting this massive mismatch occurring out here as bold goals are being pursued. And we're only beginning to scratch the surface of what is coming within this industry. There's a lot more yet to come. And there's a lot of opportunity that comes with this. New jobs, new careers, new industries, new companies, new billion-dollar industries appearing. The most fascinating thing is the politics of all this are not really aligned with the science. Well, duh, what else is new? I mean, we've got senators who are supporting coal industries. Coal is dead. Coal is over. I really feel bad for the coal miners because their jobs are going to disappear. The industry is going to disappear. If we think on a long-term basis, it's old, it's dead, it's out of date, it's gone. And the politics, the short-term politics, trying to take advantage of that, the damage it is doing to these people and not retraining them, not providing them part of the new opportunity, that's a reality. Also the reality is countries that deny this future are missing out on the birth of the next economies that define our future. And so the political issue is absolutely overwhelming to me. I never quite understood it. The key thing is this, the implications of action or inaction. If you are touched in any way by automotive, by battery, by energy, anything having to do with this, if you're not acting now, if you're not aligning to the trends right now, it's going to hurt you in the long run. Look, every morning I get up and I take some photo from a stage somewhere and I write a little motivational, future-oriented quote. And one morning I wrote this: one day we'll look back and realize that the era of oil lasted for about 150 years. And then it came to an end. That moment is right now. So what do you do with this insight? Well, I used to close out on stage with my 10 great words, and I did that in Orlando last week. Number one, observe. Take some time to take a look at the trends, think about what they mean, and focus on what you need to change in terms of your strategy and your disruptive thinking, in terms of how you're approaching the future, and where do you need to take some risks? Where should you be trying some ideas in this energy world that might provide you opportunity? But you only get ahead with innovation and disruption if you're trying to do things you haven't done before. So you need to dare. To dare, you need to banish the innovation killers. You know, these excuses, you can't do that because we've always done it this way, it won't work, it's a dumb idea, the boss won't go for it, it's doomed to fail. Or the worst phrase we use in the world of business, why can't we keep doing what we've always been doing? You have to banish that thinking. Because what you really need to do is you need to try. You need to try to do things you haven't done before. To do that, you need to empower people to pursue this future. To get there, you have to question. Look, we develop assumptions and habits and routines that hold us back from pursuing the future, because this is all about growth. This is all about opportunity. This is all about pursuing what comes next in terms of the opportunity that is unfolding out there. You have to do. The time for action in the world of energy is right now, because it is unfolding at a staggering speed. You do these 10 things, you get to the 11th most important word of disruptive innovation of all, and that's enjoy. This all goes to the perspective that in my world, there's long been 3 types of people. There's those who watch the future happen. There's those who make the future happen. And then there's those that, you know, sit back after the future happened and go, whoa, where did that come from? I didn't see that coming. We are telling you exactly where we are going. You need to be the second type of person. You need to change your future before the future changes you. Everything you've just seen has come from a little 9x12 virtual broadcast studio in my basement. And as we go forward in the future, there will still be a lot of opportunity for disruptive thinking delivered via virtual platforms. If you want to learn more about what's involved here, visit me online at virtual.jimcarroll.com. You'll find my website at jimcarroll.com. And for energy insight, visit virtual. For energy insight, visit energy.jimcarroll.com. I'm going to post a version of this video on my website later today so you can view it, you can share it, you can think about what's being said here. Have a good one. Futurist Jim Carroll from the Virtual Broadcast Studio.